helplessness is your best friend, savage.
To tonight's guest, Gail Dines is a professor of sociology and women's studies.
Women's studies is the most useless course ever devised in the history of mankind.
She's at Wheelock College in Boston. Her latest book, Pornland.
Now, I've read parts of Pornland, and from what I can gather, the context of which is she says that if all men view pornography, they can't tell the difference between reality and fantasy, and all women in the porn industry are fundamentally getting raped, which is something that I think is 100% complete bullshit.
Looks at how porn has changed in the last 60 years. Today on the internet, it's a multi-billion-dollar industry, and according to Dines, the images you can see are more brutal and more degrading than ever.
Anyway, if you don't like the particular images on the internet, you shouldn't be watching it. Just don't type it into Google.
She claims easy access to internet pornography is hijacking our sexuality and poisoning relations between males and females.
I'd like to point out, in the entire book, she only cites one source, and the source that she does cite is actually over 15 years old.
Professor Dines joins us now in Boston. Thanks for being there.
Thank you.
Let's start with your basic premise that internet porn in particular is hijacking our sexuality. How and why is that happening?
Well, first we have to realise that pornography has changed over the last decade and a half. You know, we're no longer talking about pictures from Playboy of a naked woman smiling in a cornfield.
You seem to have even a problem with that at times. And you can still find images like that on the internet if you do so. If you don't like the particular images, you just don't watch it, don't pay for it, and eventually it'll go away.
What we're talking about are really brutal, body-punishing images that are designed to degrade and debase.
It's good to know that you're so thin-skinned that even just images on the internet somehow offends your entire gender. And second of all, there are images that degrade and debase men as well. You can't be for one or the other. You have to be for both of them.
Women. And what's happening thanks to the internet is pornography is now more accessible, it's more affordable, it's more anonymous, which means that more and more men and boys are looking at pornography.
And your problem with people looking at pornography is, and second of all, women also look at pornography, not just men.
And that's impacting the way they think about their own sexuality, the way they think about women, and the way they think about relationships.
That's the key word. They are thinking for themselves. Because your problem is that you think that just because somebody looks at pornography, they're some kind of sex-crazed maniac who goes around raping everything, which isn't true.
Let's get before we go on to talk in detail about the sort of images, the sort of things that people are accessing these days, give us some sense of the scale of the internet porn industry if you can, because some of the statistics are mind-boggling.
Well, they say it's about a $96 billion a year industry worldwide. There's over 13,000 porn movies released to the market in the United States of America. They reckon about 1 in 3 web pages contain some pornographic content. So what you see is pornography is all over the internet.
I think we know what you're talking about.
Well, if you're going to be like that.
No, it's just quite surprising. They did a survey on behalf of the American Civil Liberties Union, who were very annoyed about some legislation that Bush was trying to push through, which they thought somewhat prohibitive of personal liberty, and they discovered that less than 1% of the internet is pornography. Less than 1%.
In fact, pornography drove the internet. The technology that the pornography industry devised is now mainstream in the industry.
Now, you talk about this brutal body punishing pornography. It's sometimes known as gonzo porn.
Now, I've actually looked up the word gonzo, and it actually just means to feature random, bizarre, or subjective ideas, commentaries, or the like. What I think she's referring to is snuff. So therefore, she's using the word gonzo in an incorrect context.
What is it?
Yes.
How do you access it? Is it easy to access?
Well, if you go on Google and you put porn into Google, you'll get it within 5 to 10 seconds. What I talk about in my book are only those images that I accessed, I would say, within 10 seconds, which means that the average 11-year-old, which is the first age of viewing pornography, can...
First of all, I don't see anything wrong with viewing pornography at a young age, as long as you have your parents, your moral guardians, as per se, to help bring it in the correct context for you. And that's the thing that she doesn't realise is...
Get to those images in 5 seconds. Gonzo is really the body-punishing, hardcore imagery. It dominates the internet today. It is the most profitable for the industry.
That is a blatant lie there. There is no individual sector of the porn that is probably more profitable than any other. I think the only reasons why she is saying that is to get people on her side. So she is lying to get people on her side.
And what the industry says is that gonzo pornography is the pornography of choice when men are alone. So really it's swept over, and the reason for that is a lot of softcore pornography today has migrated into pop culture.
And that's a severe problem because...
So the more you have softcore in pop culture, the more the pornography industry is forced to go hardcore as a way to distinguish its products.
When you say hardcore, what do you mean when you talk about debasing images? Just describe the sorts of things that an 11-year-old might access with a couple of clicks of a mouse through Google.
Like I said earlier, I don't see anything wrong with kids viewing pornography at a young age, as long as they have adults that will help bring in the correct context. And if you don't want kids to view pornography on the internet, all you need to do is install a simple filter. And by the way, I'm going to warn you, the next couple of minutes of the video is going to contain very strong language of a sexual nature. So I would suggest turning your speakers off for the next couple of minutes.
Okay, well, first of all, what's very popular is choking with a penis, where the penis is put so far down the woman's throat that it activates the gag reflex. In some of the cases, she actually vomits. You also see one woman with 3 men being orally, anally, vaginally penetrated as she's being sometimes slapped, spit on, as her hair is being pulled and being called names like, you know, whore, bitch, slut, cum dumpster, and other things that I can't say on the television. Those are the kind of images. You also have this new thing called ATM, which is ass to mouth, which is where they put the penis into the anus of a woman and then straight into her mouth without washing. And what you're seeing now, what I've heard from the industry, is you're seeing women with fecal bacterial infections in their mouth thanks to that.
2 things I have a problem with this part. 1, she is not part of the porn industry, therefore she does not know what the porn industry is saying. And 2, what she has just mentioned makes up a very small portion of the porn industry itself.
Is it? It seems to me from reading your book that what's happening is that the people who are viewing this are becoming so, and you're saying it's largely men, I take it, mostly men, and obviously
Absolutely.
boys as well, from what you're saying, are becoming so desensitised to the images that they're sort of demanding worse and worse images, more brutal events to happen in front of them.
Yeah, that is a complete lie and fallacy. What she is saying that is if you view pornography, eventually you'll turn into some hairy palm pervert who will eventually only be able to jack off to snuff, which I think is complete horseshit.
Well, this is what the pornography industry is saying. In fact, Adult Video News, which is the trade journal of the industry, had a story a few years ago about the directors and how they don't know what to do next to keep these men interested. Because really, in pornography, you've done virtually everything you can to the woman's body, short of killing her, so they're fast running out of ideas. Now, study after study shows that the more men view pornography, the more they become desensitized.
You only ever cite 1 study in your entire book, and that study is over 15 years old. So you are either lying or making this shit up.
They get bored, it becomes banal. They need something higher, more and more sizzling in order to get them aroused. And what that is about is how much more you can debase the woman's body. So what you have now is a landscape of pornography that is based on hardcore debasing images which men are becoming more desensitized to. And the question is, where's the pornography industry going to go now? And I think they're in.
First of all, your argument is all men only can get off on debasing women. There is pornography that debases men. There is pornography that shows stable and basic relationships, and that completely undermines your argument, so you dismiss it outright.
Trouble because they can't think of anything else to do.
Well, they have already accessed sort of deep psychological racist tendencies from what you're saying. There's an awful lot of black men with white women, and you have a very interesting take on that. Tell us about that.
Well, remember, in the United States of America, there's a long and ugly history of racism against African Americans. And when I was looking at these images, and what's interesting is the Adult Video News says 1 in 4 movies released to the market is what they call interracial, which is a black man and a white woman.
Which is always a good thing. You know, it's always good to show that two people of a race can come together and show an intimate moment which can help dismiss racism, unlike you.
And I got thinking, why in the United States of America do white men, which is who are the audience, want to see this? And then it got me thinking about the debasement. And if indeed pornography is about the debasement of women, what better way to debase a white woman in the eyes of white men than to have her penetrated over and over again by that body which is the carrier of all that is demonized sexually, i.e. the black male? So it's one more way to dehumanize and demean her.
You do know what you just said could be perceived as being fundamentally one of the most racist things I've ever heard of in the history of mankind. You know, I think it's good that they show, interracial relationships in pornography. It can help dismiss racism, unlike you. And I think you also include a passage about them not including other ethnic minorities as a bad thing. So you say, if they include ethnic minorities, that's a bad thing. And if they include ethnic minorities, that's a bad thing. You're using two double standards, you lying hypocrite.
Is it clear where these porn performers are coming from? Because as well as this grimmer side of it, you're seeing they're becoming more popular as well. Porn stars, in particular, one of the richest porn stars in America became a star on the Oprah Winfrey Show.
That's exactly right. Now, this is really important to talk about Jenna Jameson, because she's really the first ever porn star. And really, a porn star is a woman who moves from pornography to pop culture seamlessly. And she's the only woman who really did this. And now you've got another one called Sasha Grey who's doing this. But what Jenna Jameson did was basically act as a recruitment tool for the porn industry.
Personally, I don't have a problem with Jesse James or Sasha Grey or Lisa Ann using the tools that they have at their disposal to gain whatever assets that they want. That's the whole point of life itself.
Because previously, I would say the vast majority of women who went into pornography had histories of sexual abuse. But today,
that's a blatant line, you know. You don't have any numbers to back up that completely wild and unfounded accusation. And nobody knows what percentage of porn stars got into the industry for whatever reason.
You're seeing is, I think, more and more working class women who are looking at, minimum wage jobs for the rest of their life, turn on E! Entertainment, turn on Oprah Winfrey, and they get to see this Jenna Jameson's house, her beautiful clothes, her art collection.
I think somebody's a bit jealous.
And this acts as a way to bring in young women who don't understand what's going to happen to them in pornography, who might consent, but they don't know what they're consenting to.
May have gotten away with that thinking over 10 years ago, but you can easily look up, a track record of director or the studio, knowing what's expected of you. If you just go into an industry blind, then you're a complete and utter idiot.
And they come into the industry and they get spat out within a few months, and then there's always more coming in. So really what's happening is you're seeing a change in the kind of women who are going into the industry, and more, I think, are going in because they think they can become the next Jenna Jameson.
Yet again, you are completely making unfounded and wild accusations. People always do things for their own reasons. Some people may go into the porn industry to make money. Some people may get into it because they like sex. Some people may get into it just to make some money or pay their college tuition. Or rebelling against people like you, for starters.
How did Oprah Winfrey justify this glamorization of the porn industry? I mean, did she ask, the gruesome questions about what it must have been like to be doing that kind of work for many years on it?
Well, she basically skirted the issue, and what she was kind of fawning over Jenna Jameson. And what she did, which I thought was really, unquestionable about how you used her, was they went to her house and they showed her private art collection and her cars. And I thought this was a great way to show that, look, this is how women get wealthy in pornography. And what she didn't show, what Oprah Winfrey did not bring on her show, was for everyone Jenna Jameson, you have thousands and thousands of women who are spat out by this industry, end up poor, barely own the clothes on their back. That's the real story of pornography that you very rarely see in the media.
But that's true of any other society, job, industry, that there will always be people who will be unlucky, who may have a death or divorce to deal with, and who may lose everything because of bad deals or debts. It's how you deal with them. I believe you should give them support and help them get back on their feet.
Let's talk more